I just read a novel which made me understand and fully realize that parenting is hard. It is so hard. Of course, this isn't an original insight, and it's something that I intuitively understood already, but Jesus, is parenting difficult. That novel is Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy, and this story is putting out into the open a lot of things which I think are often swept under the carpet early on. She wonders, would you have had a baby if they told you that stuff? But I don't think this is simply a tale about the horrors of parenting that would scare anyone away from becoming a parent if they wanted to have children. It's more about really honestly talking about these different things, and it acknowledges that it's just one woman's perspective, although there are a lot of experiences in this that I think probably are universal, that any parent would relate to or understand or connect with. It's very raw and emotional and down to earth, but also very finely written. It's almost poetic in places, and it's occasionally funny, usually in a very tragicomic way. One small detail that I found quite funny early on in the book is when she says, I unstrapped my prize marrow, when she unstraps her baby from her, as if her baby were a vegetable that she were presenting at the county fair. It follows an Irish mother who is describing the experience of raising her son to him. She refers to her son as Sailor, but it's left ambiguous of whether she is writing a letter to him or speaking to him directly or just composing this monologue in her mind. It follows roughly a year when her son is turning 2 and then 3 years old. She is deeply exhausted, frustrated, and depressed, and this is infused into the narrative itself, which can veer from these sharply realistic scenes of depicting disastrous moments in daily life to this hazy, dreamlike state of consciousness to more contemplative passages. There's a real crispness to her prose which can so neatly sum up her experience. At one point she says, I was so tired and you were so hungry, but you wouldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. Mother and child. That is everything you need to know. Even though the story of the difficulty of raising a child has been told many times before, and I think a lot of us will already know a lot of the things she describes in this book, whether we have direct experience of it or not, it's never been told quite like this before, so I found it very original and eye-opening. At its heart, this book feels like a desperate cry to be heard and understood, and for people to stop being dicks. This is something that she states a number of times in reference to how people react to her and dismiss her in public. And there's one section in which she's referring to a cashier when she says, to him, I was yet another clumsy housewife who couldn't keep up with him. I know this because I used to think that way too. I used to be a dick. There's a spectrum. I was on it. But you won't be a dick because I have enlightened you. Be an astronaut, be a nurse, be a postman, be whatever. Just don't be a dick. And one of the biggest dicks in her life is her husband. She is the primary caretaker because he has a demanding job and he's often at the office. But even when he's at home, the duties of parenting still fall upon her, and she's not able to do her own work or to express herself creatively. Again, it's well known that high expectations are placed upon a mother who raises a child at home while the father is away working, but this story really shows the ins and outs of that experience. The husband does often come across like a villainous dick. He does and says some horribly dismissive and neglectful things. And there were multiple points in this book where I was thinking, oh, no, 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 don't say that, don't do that. And I did worry sometimes that it felt like maybe it was giving him too rough a ride in how it was portraying him. But the novel is only from her perspective, and it is limited in that way. And I feel like it acknowledges that, and we can emotionally understand that things are probably very difficult for him as well. In the story, she has some very over-the-top reactions, which without any context, of course, he can't really understand it. And she can also be quite dismissive towards him when he is reaching out and trying to understand her and trying to empathize with her. But more often, I felt strongly on her side because she is the one that is constantly wrangling with this child. And when he is there, he's often just on his phone or he's watching TV. It's also very interesting that she occasionally meets with someone that she refers to as her friend. This is a man that she's known since childhood, and he now has 3 children of his own, and they sometimes see each other in the playground. And he's also the primary carer in his family because his wife also works a demanding job. So he can really sympathize with her because they're going through the same thing. This has such a positive effect upon her because part of the trouble is that she is so lonely and isolated. So the friend is a kind of counterpoint to her husband. And at one point, she says, "My faith in masculinity was at stake, and my friend redeemed it." But I feel like there's a compelling ambiguity about whether the friend is even real or just a companion that she's imagined for herself. And part of the reason why I started to think about this was that I remembered the movie called Tully, starring Charlize Theron as a stressed mother. If anyone has seen that, it's not the most amazing movie, but there are some really interesting things about it. And I think it's really clever that the novel leaves it open to interpretation about whether the friend is real or not, because he could be someone who is actually there, who is just a friend she has known for a long time, whose life has run kind of parallel to hers. And for part of the book, I was wondering if there is a bit of a romantic tension there, but I don't think it's as simple as that, because also at one point she says, "I didn't want my friend to be my husband. I wanted my husband to be my friend." And I think that is really getting to the crux of why she is relating her experience like this. She understandably feels like she's losing her mind and her connection to the people that are most precious to her son and her husband. So this monologue is a heartfelt attempt to solidify that connection and create an understanding between them. And I've been chatting about this novel a lot with my friend Selena today in our book club's Discord channel, and she's made so many interesting points about this story, and it's been really valuable for me to get her perspective as a mother, since I'm someone who doesn't have any children. So obviously I relate to this story differently. And if you're a mother or father who has read this book, I'd really be interested in hearing from you. But she brought up a really good point that I'm still wrestling with about whether it's even right for a mother to be this open and candid with her child about her experiences and her struggles. Is it damaging in placing too much guilt upon a child to let him know that his mere existence has caused his mother so much pain and suffering? Or is it better to have total honesty so there can be a real understanding within a family? I think these are questions that the novel is consciously raising, and there aren't any easy answers to them. I'm sure we've all wondered at various points, what did our parents really go through in the process of raising us? But would we really want to know the full truth? It's hard to say, and I found really poignant certain moments in the book when she's recalling her own parents. There's a memory of being taken to a beach as a child and really wanting and yearning to return to that beach, but then she realizes it's not the location that she's missing, but that connection she had to the parent that took her there. At another point, she acknowledges the lineage of motherhood that she's entered into when she writes, I had sighed like my mother had sighed before me, and hers before her. So she seems to be relating this story to her son so he can feel that connection too. But again, it's ambiguous about whether he's reading the story or he's listening to her tell it. It might all be an interior monologue, which he will never know, and this adds another tragic element to the book. So I found reading this novel a very moving and eye-opening experience. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it at first, but I ended up getting really into it and getting so much out of it. So if you've read it, I'd love to know what you think about it, or if you're interested in reading it now. It's also made me really keen to read the nonfiction book Matrescence, which is on the Women's Prize for Nonfiction longlist. And Selena is reading this book at the moment as well. And it seems like these two books will really complement each other, because this explores the physiological and psychological and social changes which occur for women when they experience motherhood. So I'm hoping to read this soon as well. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.